posted to Chennai, I was posted in Mumbai, I was posted in Jalandhar, I was posted in Pune. So I've literally done north, south, the whole thing. There is no alternative to perspiration, no matter how much inspiration you have. Arts to French to taxation. So it has been quite a zigzag. I think ultimately the interview is just like a conversation. You should put your best foot forward and not be as scared as I was. The interview panel is not there to find your faults or to prove that you are wrong. They are there to understand what is it that you know, how are you as a person. Enjoy yourself. There's a whole world out there for you and have a great time and just have a blast. The world is there for you. I have fire in my belly. That's for certain.
I am your host Gaurav Garg and we welcome all our viewers to our show Amazing Mentor. Today with us is Miss Sangeeta Godbole. She is 1989 batch IRS officer. She was Principal Commissioner Income Tax. She has been on different appointments like Director Europe, Commissioner of Income Tax, Director General, leading the Service Exports Promotional Council, etc. It's a pleasure to welcome Sangeeta Godbole to our show Amazing Mentor. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
My pleasure, man. So tell us about your childhood and any particular childhood memory that strikes your mind when we say the word childhood.
Well, there are plenty of memories and it was a good, fun-filled, fairly cocooned, middle-class kind of a childhood. I grew up in Pune and my school and college was of course Ferguson College. It is a very well-known college and I did my BA in French over there. And I was towards, I can't say childhood, but adolescence, I was also part of Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad, ABVP. And those memories are very exciting for me. We used to do a lot of good work in Juggis and all of that. And that was something that I still remember as being a special time that I spent.
So what about your educational background, schooling and higher education?
I did my class 10 and 12 Maharashtra board and I have a slightly zigzag kind of an educational background. It is quite common these days, but in those days it was not so common and people would just take one track and continue on the same. But I think it's quite interesting. I was a bright student, of course. I always used to not the first rank, but first, second rank somewhere in school. Sometimes third, fourth rank as well. Not that I always was in the top 2 or anything like that. But I, of course, chose science because in those times everybody was doing science. And I actually wanted to join IIT. And I worked hard to join, but I didn't get it. And then I decided that, instead of taking a gap year, nowadays taking a gap year is a very normal thing. But that time we never took gap years. So I shifted from science to arts in Ferguson College. And people were like quite curious, why are you doing these things? Why are you shifting to arts? But I thought, arts anyway, there's not much work to do. So I can focus on the IIT entrance again. So I wrote the IIT entrance a second time, but again I didn't get through and I was really heartbroken at that time. I was really very, very disappointed and I thought, oh no, this is the end of the world and things like that. I really remember telling that to my mother. I think I was crying or something and she said, things happen. And I said, no, this is the end of the world and my future is gone and all those things. And now I really thank my lucky stars that I did not get into IIT because most probably I would have become an engineer and then I would have gone to the US. Like that time, everybody from IIT used to go. Even now they do. So then I pursued BA. I continued BA in French. And then I taught French for a year and I also did a master's in French. But then I wrote the civil services and I got through in the first attempt, which is quite rare. And then I got into the Indian Revenue Service, which is taxation. So from science to arts to French to taxation. So it has been quite a zigzag and I continue doing zigzag. So I think zigzag is my specialty.
So apart from going into IIT, what was your dream profession as a child?
So again, same thing. Some of my elder cousins, they had this IIM kind of a background, and they were like senior managers, and that kind of lifestyle was, for me, it was a very happening kind of lifestyle, and the language that they used to speak and their parties and all of that. And I was thoroughly convinced that I wanted to do MBA and join in one of the corporates. And my mother used to always tell me that you should go in for IAS and you should try the civil services. And I would completely brush her off, saying, no, I don't like dusty files and I'm not interested in government and all of that. But so my dream was something else. Again, the second time. And I went to another direction. But in hindsight, I think the other direction turned out to be better.
So what about your hobbies and interests?
I love trekking. In Pune, I don't know whether you have visited Pune or you have people in Pune, but Pune is very close to the Sahyadri mountains, and there are so many trekking opportunities within 1.5 hours of Pune. And I think almost everybody in Pune who grew up in Pune, they trek. I mean, badminton and trekking, those are the two things that are, almost and of course, a two-wheeler. All girls would ride a two-wheeler and they would go trekking, and not all girls, but many young people. And so I followed the same. And I love playing badminton. I play even now. And I'm now 57. And my friends in my graduate institute where I'm student now, they are quite surprised. At first, they see a lady with grey hair and they don't think, oh, she's not going to be a good partner to play badminton. But when they see my smashes, then they know that, okay, she knows how to play.
So who was your inspiration in your early childhood?
I don't know about inspiration, but one of my elder cousins, I think I used to look up to him a lot. He was a chartered accountant and he again passed in the first attempt. And he was a ranker, All India, I think 3 or 4 something. And he was very polished and suave. And, he had this top job in I don't forget which company. So he used to be, that used to be my real inspiration initially. But then, of course, it changes. But I think from close quarters, a person that I had seen, I really think, yes, he used to be my inspiration.
When you didn't succeed in IIM, so who pressurized you, or what struck your mind that, okay, now I have to prepare for UPSC examination?
That's actually nobody pressurized me, because I think I was too strong-headed. I mean, my parents were used to me being very, very, very stuck to my own ideas and things like that. They had kind of given up. But I was working as full-time worker for ABVP in Sangli district. So there is this concept where young people, even it happens in ABVP even today in large numbers, where young people, they pass out of their graduation or masters, whatever they're doing, and they will leave their homes and they will go and stay in another town. And all this completely free, no pay, no honorarium, nothing. And we used to work as full-time workers. And that time there was a drought in Sangli district. It was a very interesting time. And we realized that many students coming to the colleges in Sangli is a district in Maharashtra, Western Maharashtra. It is that, sugar, cane, that kind of a very, very, agriculture based. But jahan pe people are quite well-to-do. They're not rich, as in they don't have money, but they have enough of agricultural produce and things like that. And we realized that students were not coming to colleges and they were planning to leave college. So when we found out what is the problem, why is it that they're leaving, we realized that they do not have enough grain in the house, because there was a drought and there was no fasal, no yield that time. So there was not enough grain in their houses. And therefore, they had decided that they would go on those, daily wage kind of works which government had put up, make dams, create roads, that kind of. Normally, when it is drought, this is the way government tries to provide some kind of, I think at that time it was Indira Gandhi Rozgar Yojana or something like that. And these young people wanted to go there and earn some money because there was nothing at home to eat. So then we decided that we will run a mess in Sangli so that people who come, they can eat twice a day. They can stay in their hostels and they can do the studies. And we thought we are doing something very good because we were giving a person who's doing TY, BSc engineering, he's going to leave his school, his college, and we thought we were doing something excellent and we wanted grain because we were just a student organization, right? So that time nobody knew ABVP, we were like completely ignored, like nobody wanted to have to do anything with us. And so we went to the grain merchants in Sangli, and we requested them, can you give us say 50 kgs or 100 kgs of grain? Now for a big grain merchant, 50 kg is absolutely nothing. I mean, he can just, it is not even like it is not even like supari or whatever you eat after your dinner, you know. But they just refused point blank, and we were quite shocked. They just did not want to have anything to do with us as students. So then we went to the district collector, I think DM, district magistrate as it is called in the north of India. And he was a person who had come from very humble background. And he immediately understood what we were trying to do and how these students must be really deprived even of food, and then they have to give up their college education. So he just picked up the phone and he called one person, somebody in that mandi, and next day we had 10 big sacks of grain in our office. And that was the time I realized the power of being in government. You know, for the last 10-15 days as young students, we were going from shop to shop and we were asking these grain merchants, can you give us 50 kg? Can you give us 20 kg? They did not even look at us. I mean, they just completely ignored us. But when this collector called up, just literally in front of us, old man, coming from very humble background himself, and he just picked up the phone, probably asked his PS to call the leader of that grain association or something. And that is it. It was like a 2-minute conversation that he had. And next day we had 20 gunny sacks full of grain in our office delivered to our office. So that is when I decided, boss, forget about this corporate business. I want to go in for civil service. And really that really is what, and then we could do a lot with it. Like I think Friday evening or something, we would invite, for the first session, we invited the collector himself. He came, he sat with all of us, and it was a very simple bhakri, I don't know, very jawar roti, dal sabji kind of a dinner. And all of us sat down with all the students, and he was really inspiring at that point in time. And that was when I decided that civil services, nothing else.
So, what were the challenges and difficulties you have faced while preparing for your UPSC examination?
Civil services is not easy. So anybody who's attempting it, many people come and ask me for advice, for counseling, jo bhi hai. So I always say that, look, however brilliant you are, it is a gamble, remember, because some 10 lakh students appear, out of which government will select some 900 or 809. So the ratio is killing, you know, really. And just a little bit of bad luck and you are out of it, right? And the exam is 1 full year. So if there's a little bit of bad luck, or you miss out on something, or you are unwell or whatever, or even for 1 day, then the whole year is lost, right? So one must always have plan B in place. Like I was very clear. If I did not get into civil services, maybe I would have given, I gave 2 attempts, I would have given, that is it. And then I wanted to teach French. I was very clear in my mind. I mean, my plan A, plan B was very clear. So the first thing I would say to everybody is keep plan B in mind, and also that civil services is not the be all and end all in life, right? There are many things you can do. Look at me, I'm now resigned and I'm doing something completely different after working in civil services for 31 years. So that is the first thing. The second thing I would say is to really gauge what you want to study. I think that was how I got in at first attempt, if at all. I think what really helped me was to understand. Look, the syllabus is everything under the sun. Literally, the spectrum is huge, especially for general studies. They can ask you anything under the sun. But if you understand what is it that you want to say, basically from within you, and if you're taking a particular subject, for example, I think my subjects were French and sociology, if I'm not mistaken. If you look at the last 3-4 years question papers and you would realize that, okay, this is what I need to focus on and focus on it. I think that is what will ultimately help. And of course, hard work. there is no alternative to perspiration. No matter how much inspiration you have, there is just no alternative.
So what was the first reaction of your parents when they came to know, okay, now you have been selected as an officer?
Of course, they were quite happy. But in those, I am 89 batch. So in those days, there was not so much hype about civil services, at least in Maharashtra. Nobody knew much about it. I myself didn't even really understand what I had achieved, frankly, when I got in. And of course, they were very, very, very happy. And of course, then many organizations invited me. They want to aapko felicitate karenge and all those things, which is fine. But once you enter civil services, also you have not arrived in life when you've passed civil services. The real struggle actually starts from there, from when you enter into the civil services, because everybody else is as smart and sometimes more smart than you are. And there is the number of positions where you can really contribute are few in any organization, and therefore one has to struggle even afterwards. Like, it is not you have not arrived in life when you pass civil services. That is true.
So where did you started your career journey from?
So I was initially posted in Mumbai, and Mumbai, as you know, is 40% of the revenue is collected from Mumbai, and Mumbai gives you, in terms of a career, I was in the Indian Revenue Service. So in terms of a career, I think Mumbai is a brilliant place. You get to work on so many areas of taxation which you would not otherwise. For example, exporters, for example, financial transactions, share transactions, then international taxation, all those things one gets to learn in Mumbai, not in other places. So I was fortunate enough to get a very important charge immediately. And when I opened the balance sheet of, I think, Tatas and all those big groups were there at that time in my circle. And when I opened the balance sheet, I literally had to write zeros to understand what is the turnover. Like, the turnover is in rupees lakh, and therefore there are 7 zeros. So you don't know 70 into lakh means how many 100,000 crores. So it started from there. But it gave me excellent exposure to many provisions of income tax. Now those provisions are not there. Like, for example, there was one provision, 80 HHC, which was export turnover was exempt from taxation. And that was the most complicated one, because every chartered accountant really tried his hardest to ensure that his clients get the maximum tax benefit. And we as taxation officers, it was our job to work hardest to ensure that the correct tax is computed and the computation. So we got a lot of exposure at that at a very young age. I think I was just 26 or something. And it was quite funny. In Maharashtra, I think I was the only person that time from Maharashtra posted in Mumbai. And Marathi, so the local people, they were very, very, very excited, and they would just make some excuse to come into my room and just say, hello, madam, and tumhala bagaila kiti chan vattay, all those things. So it was quite nice, yeah.
So how was your first day at office, and what was the first task assigned to you?
I don't think I remember. It was like a very, very long time back. But as a young officer, I remember feeling very lost actually in the initial days, because the offices are huge and you are the junior most and you don't know anything, and sometimes you are very young You're just 25, 26, 27, and the staff is much older to you, and they also look at you, well, what kids have come and what are they going to teach us and all of that. So initially it is a bit scary, and you are a bit confused and lost, but as you go along you gain in confidence, and you also learn a lot from your seniors. So it's a good thing to be in a large so if you're in a very large organization, the positive point is that you have a lot of people from whom you can learn. You have seniors, you have your staff who are very experienced, you have your bosses, you have the chartered accountants, in this case, in my case, CAs or lawyers who come to represent before you. You can learn from everybody, and everybody has more experience than you, everybody has more knowledge than you. So if you are in a large setup, this is a good part of it. But the challenge is that to get yourself noticed is difficult, because you are in about 1,000 people, you are just one more person. So that is a challenge. If you go to a very small town, like then later on, much later, I was posted in Jalandhar, some smaller town, then it is much easier to get noticed because there are not many officers. But then you don't have as many people from whom you can learn as well. So those are the pluses and minuses of being in large and small places.
So which was the most challenging task of your career as an officer?
There were a lot of challenges. I will say two things. One was when I was posted in Kolhapur as Additional Director Investigation. Now people may not know what is investigation, but investigation is when you do income tax raids. So I was in charge of 5 districts of Maharashtra, Kolhapur, that whole sugarcane belt, and Konkan. Very politically, very sensitive area. And do raids, we call it searches. It's not easy, especially for a lady officer, because there are limitations. It's a very intrusive kind of a thing that you do. You enter people's houses and you search, and for me, I would lead a team. I would not go on search, but I would lead a team sitting in the control room and then just sensing what is happening on various locations. For example, we hit all the locations at the same time. So if we are searching 20 locations, houses, godowns, offices, whatever, it all has to be done at the same time. So 8 o'clock in the morning means 8 o'clock, all locations are hit and our officers reach there. And to coordinate with all of them and to sort of ensure that things are running smoothly within each of the premises, it's a very tough task. But sometimes because you're a woman, you're more perceptive and you can even on the phone, because I'm sitting in my room in the income tax office and I'm constantly on the phone and other people are reporting to me. Madam ye mila, madam wo mila, yahan ye chal raha hai, yahan maan nahi rahe hain, they are not signing the warrant, we are not getting witnesses, there are 100 problems. So you have to tackle all of them at the same time. So those are the really challenging kind of times, and you work almost 48 hours continuously. We don't leave it until we have finished. We cannot leave the premise halfway. So by the time you search and you take the statement, everything, it takes time. So you're working 48 hours, sometimes 72 hours continuously. And even after the teams finish there, they have to come back and report. And if there is some cash seizure or some jewelry or something, or if there are documents, they have to be put onto a bank and kept in a safe, and the account has to be. So all those very, very procedural things. And unless all of that is complete, the teams don't go home. So that is quite a tough one. Plus, we also have to organize for the food for the teams who are searching. All that back-end logistics is done at the control room. So this whole operation is, plus you are reporting to the bosses. They are asking you all the time, kya hua, kya mila, kuch mila ki nahi mila, all the things. So those used to be very, very challenging, but also very satisfying operations if you find something.
So what were your roles and responsibilities as Principal Commissioner Income Tax?
As Principal Commissioner Income Tax, I spent a year only, because before that I was the Director General of the Services Export Promotion Council. This is an export promotion council set up by the Government of India for promotion of services. For example, we have goods export and we have services export. So goods export is when you are exporting, let's say, textiles or jute or medicines or pharmaceuticals, whatever. But services is when you are exporting, let's say, legal services or entertainment services or healthcare or tourism. All of that is export of services, and India is considered to be a hub of export of services. And Government of India had set up this organization, which I was leading as DG. And then I went back to the department as Principal Commissioner of Income Tax. And we had just transited to the faceless assessment. If you remember, recently, our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, he had introduced this faceless assessment, and the department was transiting from the regular normal assessment where the taxpayer can go to the office and submit documents, and now it was all online and all faceless. Officer will not know whose return he is assessing, and the taxpayer will not know who is assessing his return. So in that, they had set up a technical unit for the South. So there were 5 technical units in India, and I was in charge of the technical unit in South India. So basically the 4 southern states, and we were to be the brain of this whole thing. So to give legal advice, and it was just in the development stage. So wherever if officers were stuck on some legal issues, we would give that. There were also plans to introduce some artificial intelligence, AI related, some kind of software, and also translating softwares, because suppose a return has been filed in, let's say, Odisha, and there are documents related in Odia language, and it comes to, let's say, an officer who is working in Kerala, then he doesn't really understand what those documents are. And sometimes these documents contain some very critical and crucial evidence for taxation purposes. So how to develop an automated translation mechanism, because Google translation is not very good, certainly not for legal purposes, because there every word, every and, or, comma, full stop, everything matters. So we were in the process of devising how to get the translations done so that they reach the officers in time, and also they are correct translations, and also that privacy of the taxpayer is not lost. The confidentiality of the income tax filings that he has done is not lost. So there were a number of things around translations. There were also a number of things, because nowadays the accounts, they are not books. They are not books of accounts written. It is all digitally done. So we also were trying to see if we could somehow do digital forensics and find out if there has been some manipulation done in the accounting. So I was developing that whole setup. We were to be the brain of this whole faceless assessment. And I was heading the unit for the South. I was based in Chennai at that time.
So in your vast 14 plus years of career, you have been in different departments. Which one was your favorite and why?
There are 2 favorites. One was the systems directorate in the income tax department, because I did 2 projects. They are really very, very dear to me. I was not in the department main, as in I was not doing the taxation part of it. But we set up the online tax payment in 2008. And at that point of time, it was unimaginable that you could sit in your home in, let's say, Bombay, and your bank account is in Calcutta, and you can file your return and make tax payment just sitting in your home at 12 o'clock in the night. So that is the thing that we devised at that time. It is online tax payment. It is running even now. We call it e-payment of taxes. And that was a brilliant thing. Another thing is because we could immediately get a sense of how much tax has been paid. Because it is all digital, the payment itself is digital, tracing the payment and aligning it to the PAN number, to the income tax officer, to which region, all of that became very simple. And it was, I think, one of the best service delivery projects in terms of governance, because otherwise you stand in queue, you send your peon with a check and the 3 challans and the 3 copies, and you stand in the queue for 2 hours and you don't know what to do with those 3 copies, and they're all lost. So that was one very good thing. And the other thing that I could do was refund banker. I think that is really popular, because in that time, refunds were the most problematic thing in the department, and there were a lot of complaints about refunds. But the project that I did, the refunds go directly from SBI into the taxpayers' accounts, and nowadays people get refunds like really very, very quickly. The So when your return is processed, nowadays returns are processed in Bangalore. The information goes to SBI from the backend, and from there directly the amount goes into the taxpayer's account. It got rid of 80% of our complaints, frankly, that one single project. So those two projects are really, I'm fortunate that I got to work on those projects. Yeah.
So what about your training experience? How was your training and any funny moment from your training time?
Training is the best time because your entire batch is there, and you won't believe, even now at the end of this month, we all have our final training for our batch. And of course, I'm not there, but I'm still going because I'm so keen to meet my batchmates and my friends that even though I'm ex-IRS, I've also been invited by my friends to attend that training. And training is the happiest time because there's no responsibility. You're all together. You can do all kinds of funny pranks. Trust me, we had our share of fun time when we trained.
What made you start your study again?
I was in the Department of Commerce, and then I got back to the Income Tax Department. And then at one point, I realized that I want to get out of taxation and I want to do more on environment. I wanted to work in the area of international trade and environment because I was also in the Commerce Ministry and I worked on the trade part a lot. But I thought that just having a passion in your heart is not enough. You need the qualification for it. And that is why I decided to call it quits. And I'm doing a master's again. And everybody thought it was madness, and all my colleagues said, "Hey, shocking hai. What is it? What is wrong with you?" Now my batchmates are promoted as chief commissioners of income tax, and I would also have been with them. But I said, enough is enough. If you're principal or your chief or your principal chief, nobody, it doesn't really matter, right, after a point. And therefore, I'm having a great time in Geneva. It's a graduate institute. It's not well known much in India, but it was started for the League of Nations. It is that old. It was started to train before the United Nations, before the UN, there was the League of Nations. Before the Second World War, and this was started to train the bureaucrats of the League of Nations, and the same thing continues. And I'm doing a master's in international affairs with a major in trade and a minor in environment. I won't take up a job or something, but I'll probably come back and teach young people here or work with a think tank or something.
So what was your first award and what does award mean to you?
I think my first award was the one on Refund Banker, the one that I told you about. Refund Banker and online tax payment. That was a time when the Income Tax Department has started awarding its officers, and we were one of the first to get those awards. And it feels good if you are awarded, you are recognized and you get that certificate and whatever. What I really felt was an award for me. The work that I had done as a full-time worker in Sangli, mess for the students to come and have their lunch and dinner, free of course, very simple food. One of those guys, he later on became a PhD and he went to Australia to present a paper. And that he still remembered me and called up one of my colleagues who's still in Sangli and said, "Where is Sangeeta Tai?" and all those things. And I think that was an award. More than, it really feels that you did something and it led to an outcome and a very positive. I think I felt much happier with that rather than if I get one certificate and a trophy or something. That is fine. It's okay. But I think that was really my award.
So what's that one thing you love about your profession the most?
Like I was posted to Chennai, I was posted in Mumbai, I was posted in Jalandhar, I was posted in Pune. So I've literally done north, south, the whole thing. And most people, they complain a bit, being displaced from here to there. But I think it's brilliant in the bureaucracy. You go to any town, you have a community already there. The office is already there for you. You have a reputation, you have a job, and you have a reasonable paraphernalia to enjoy that place. I mean, can you imagine one Sangeeta Godbole from Pune going to Jalandhar of all places and, enjoying Jalandhar? What more can I want? I think that is the best part of being a bureaucrat, I feel, especially if you get transferred from here to there. The other part is also that you can really make significant difference to the lives of the common people. For example, if people start getting refunds back into their accounts immediately, not everybody people really need that refund sometimes. Not everybody is a business person. There are people who really need, even if it's 20,000-25,000, there are people who need that money, and it is their own money. And why should they wait for it? Why should they go and plead to somebody saying, please mera refund de do? That's not fair, right? It is their own money which is lying with the government. It has to come back to them as soon as possible. So these are the things that you can do in government. Very far-reaching outcomes for a very large number of people. One is a little, it's about your life. One is really about your work. So I think those are the best things about being in the bureaucracy.
So what advice would you like to give to young officers?
They don't need my advice. They are, young people are very smart these days. They have their priorities absolutely right, and they know what to do. I'm learning it myself because I have a lot of young friends now. I'm doing my master's again. I don't think they need my advice.
So what all are do's and don'ts you would suggest while preparing for your UPSC examination?
Please have a plan B in place so that reduces the pressure on your mind, right? Some people say, no, hum yahi karenge and all those things, but I frankly, in my perspective, it just increases the pressure on your mind, and then you cannot study with a free and confidence. So that is one thing again I would reiterate. The other thing is, of course, to focus, to be very aware of your surroundings, of what is happening, to be very nowadays I think all this madness is happening. You are either on this side or you are on that side, but the truth is somewhere always in between, right? So you have to have that balance and perspective in your mind, even when you're writing the answers, because whoever is going to read your answers, they would be very impressed if you can come out with a very balanced and a meaningful answer. And that comes only when you have really thought about it. When you've really, ऐसे कुछ लिख देना वो BA वगैरह में ठीक है, but not for civil services. So I think those are the two things which I would really suggest.
So what would you like to say to graduates who are just entering their professional career?
Enjoy yourself. There's a whole world out there for you, and have a great time and just have a blast. The world is there for you.
So would you like to share your interview experience?
I can tell you I was terrified because I think that was the first time I had come to Delhi, and I was so overawed by that language and the atmosphere. Delhi that time was very different from what Pune was, and I was quite scared. But I think ultimately the interview is just like a conversation. You should put your best foot forward and not be as scared as I was. Because there's no point in that. Because if you're more scared, then it shows. And then even if you already know something, you just at that point of time, it doesn't really come to your mind. So nowadays we take mock interviews here a lot in Maharashtra, Southern, here in Delhi. And of course, this year I didn't go because I was in Geneva. But I used to go to take mock interviews, and some officers used to volunteer who are posted in Delhi. And that's the thing we used to tell all the people who came, that just sit with a calm mind and just think of it as a conversation, and that the panel wants to understand more about you. It is not about finding your faults, definitely. The interview panel is not there to find your faults or to prove that you are wrong. They are there to understand what is it that you know, how are you as a person, because you've already written 2 exams, right? So now this is your personality test. So they want to see what are your motivations, how are you as a person, how will you tackle difficulties, all of that. So it's not really about testing ki ye kaun se saal mein hua tha, and if instead of 1857 you say 1856, it doesn't really matter. But it is your attitude and all those things which matter.
So now we'll start our rapid round. So your favorite actor and actress?
Favorite actor and actress, I don't watch films that much, but I think I like Alia Bhatt. Her graph is like this in her acting skills are brilliant. And I was a great fan of Vinod Khanna. As a young person, I was really find him really great. So
success in one line?
Fulfillment.
Choose anyone. Hard work, luck, or smart work.
Smart work.
Your favorite destination.
Norway.
Your favorite color.
Off-white.
Second choice of career.
Think tank.
So if you are given an opportunity to be an entrepreneur, what would you choose, entrepreneur or employed?
Entrepreneur.
At last, one line that defines you.
I have fire in my belly. That's for certain.
So thank you very much for your time, and it was pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot. It was a good time for me as well. And thank you once again.
So thank you very much, man. Thanks for watching Amazing Mentor. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button to get regular updates. Thank you very much.